This is usually the history of a fearful avoidant when they get to a point that they really want to heal. They have a history of being attracted to emotionally unavailable people. Why? Why? Why do we do that? Because it's so frustrating, isn't it? You want that connection so bad, and then that person is just not there, is not giving you what you want. Oh, let's dive into this because this is possibly one of my favorite topics within the fearful avoidant attachment style. There are a lot though. Um, so the first reason is that one of the core beliefs and the core wounds of a fearful avoidant is that you are not worthy. You are not worthy of just receiving love. You have to work for it. You have to prove yourself. You have to struggle. You have to force. You have to be perfect. And that is what you usually get with an emotionally unavailable partner. It is just a confirmation of that belief because you experience that you do have to work for it. You do have to prove yourself, and it feels like it's never enough. You're never enough. And the ironic thing is, it hasn't got to do anything with you. The emotionally unavailable partner probably has a lot of dismissive avoidant traits, so they are not securely attached either. And therefore, you just get confirmed in whatever you believe, your wounds, because that kind of feels familiar. And that belief can just keep coming back and keep being reaffirmed because in a way it's easier, it's safer than changing that belief into I am worthy. And why that is scary, that can be a lot of reasons. It could be that you're afraid that you'll get disappointed. It could be that you're afraid that it's just not for you, and you will get rejected, and there's a lot of pain involved. So it's just easier to stay in this belief of not being worthy and having to work for love. But that is not the only reason. The last reason has to do with this one. I will come back to that. The second reason is you are used to these toxic patterns. Um, and mainly the pattern of getting approval, even if it's really short, a short period, getting that confirmation, that approval that you are good enough, you are worthy of attention, even if it's just through one text or one night a month that they want to see you. And what can happen in childhood when you have this pattern of working for approval and um, there not being a connection and having to work for that, when that connection or that approval comes, and usually it's not even really connection, um, you get a high. And this is actually like a hormone cocktail that gets sent through your system, which feels like a rush. And that rush, that hormone cocktail, is highly addictive. It really is highly addictive. There are just some hormones that are the same, that get released when you take drugs. So you can physically get addicted to that feeling, that rush of approval. And you get that much more with emotionally unavailable partners because you work so much harder for it. So it's these, you work, and you have this peak of approval, and then afterwards what happens usually, because the emotionally unavailable partner is usually the dismissive avoidant, they pull back completely. The more there was a connection or the more there was approval, the more they retreat, and you have to start all over again. And it is maddening, and you probably think, I don't want this, I just want connection, I want to feel close um and want that approval all the time. But the thing is, you don't. You probably don't, as a fearful avoidant, because otherwise you wouldn't be in this situation. You wouldn't stay with this partner, or you wouldn't accept this dynamic. So the third reason, and this is a very important one, is you are scared of connection. And when you are scared of connection, It is so much easier to be with an emotionally unavailable partner because you are in control of when the connection happens. And it might be that you're watching this and you're hearing this and you're like, but that's not true. That is not true because I have to work for it. But that is exactly the thing. The connection is not there when you don't work for it. And that feels safe to you, to your fear brain. Whereas with committed, loyal, willing partner, the potential for connection is always there in every moment. And you are the one that has to set boundaries or has to express the need to be alone. And a lot of fearful avoidants haven't learned how to do that, haven't learned how to set boundaries, how to express needs. So there's always this potential for connection, which is actually quite threatening for the fearful avoidant because there is so much pain associated with connection. So you want connection, but you feel more safe wanting connection than actually having connection. And that's why it feels safe to be with an emotionally unavailable partner because you are in control. When you don't do anything, there's no connection. When you work really hard and you try and you are being perfect, that's when you probably or possibly get connection. But then when that's too much, you just don't do anything and the connection is not there anymore. That's what feels safe for you. That's why you have the control. You decide whether you work or not. You decide whether it is time for that connection or not. And with an open and willing and committed partner and loving partner, that potential for connection is there all the time. And that feels really unsafe, uneasy, and unfamiliar to your system because you are used to working for it. You are used to getting that high of approval. And in a healthy, happy, loving relationship, there aren't such highs of approval. And in a way, this this toxic dynamic of really working for approval and then having it and just having that rush of hormones and being really happy, it has nothing to do with love. And this is important because a lot of fearful avoidants completely confuse it with love. They feel like the more intense my feelings are, the more that means I love them. You have intense feelings when you get that high of approval. So you have these intense feelings a lot of times with emotionally unavailable partners. That is not love, though. That is not love. You are trying to feel a need, you are trying to heal a wound, and you are just addicted in a way to these hormones. And a happy, healthy, steady, committed relationship feels much more steady. And a lot of fearful avoidance in the beginning when you start healing or before you're healed, that feels so boring. That feels so boring. You feel like you miss passion. You feel like you miss um, drama even. It could be that obvious. Um, but what you really are seeking is that hit, that rush of um, approval. So in healing the fearful avoidant attachment style, you will notice that those highs don't feel as good anymore and you don't need them as much anymore. And you finally can completely embrace and receive the rich, nurturing love that is a committed, happy, healthy relationship. And I always saw it as because I definitely also have a history of being attracted to emotionally unavailable guys. And I started seeing it as looking for approval is like trying to light a match every single time. I think I mentioned this analogy somewhere before. Uh, you're looking for the next match to light, and when you light it does the it feels big for a second, but then it just dies out really quick, right? A match is burned out really quick. Then when I started healing and started really receiving unconditional love, that felt like a fire in a fireplace where you have logs and you just once in a while you put a log on and that fire can warm you completely, whereas a match, it just kind of lights up for a second and it doesn't warm you. It's a sorry substitute for the fire in the fireplace. So that's what love can feel like. And I remember having such a hard time letting go of that rush of hormones and that high of approval. And when I look back on it now, I wish I could say to myself that, oh, it just gets so much better. You just find that well of love inside of you, that source of love inside of you. And you get to feel the match consistently, but even like way richer, way more. And there's not so much fear involved. There's not so much anxiety or anxious energy involved. So it's so valuable. All right, so the main reason I do want to reiterate this, the main reason why you are attracted to emotionally unavailable people is because you are scared of that connection in the end, and you are almost addicted to the high of approval, wanting to work for it, um, because that's the way you have the control over connection. It's interesting, isn't it? It's so interesting because you want that connection so bad and you think you will do anything for it. But in the end, you're actually scared of having that connection. It feels safer to just want it than to actually have it. And that's what we are going to dive deep into in the online program, because there's so much more in the fearful avoidant attachment style where you want things but it doesn't feel safe having them. It feels safer wanting them. And I want you to have them. I want you to experience them. I want you to experience love and connection and calm and peace and all those things that you want for yourself. I want you to stop wanting and start feeling them and experiencing them so much. So, more information about the online program you can find in the description below. And let me know what you think of this. Do you recognize any of this? Are you attracted usually to emotionally unavailable people? And if you are healing right now and you are in a healthy, happy relationship, just know that it's normal and logical that this is hard. This is hard for a while and you long sometimes for that high of approval. That's normal and it will pass for sure. I am so happy you are here and I will see you in the next one.